Hey guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video. I was hoping I wouldn't ever have to make this video, but today we're going to talk about how Delta Force is effectively lying to everybody in the community. I believe they are trying to present some sort of facade that the game is doing incredibly well, it's going really strongly, you should jump on the game because it's this perfect title and there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, and I don't really know where to start with the whole story of Delta Force, but we're going to dig into everything here. So if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed. There's going to be plenty more to come, mostly on Battlefield, I would say, not so much on Delta Force, but if that's something that rocks your boat, then make sure you're subbed up for that. And as always, thank you so much for your ongoing support. So I will be presenting a number of pieces of evidence of where Delta Force have been blatantly lying to their community down the road. Some of them I can't prove, but I believe them to still be fairly obvious if you just apply a bit of common sense. So when this game was originally announced, it was blatantly obvious that they have really just copied other games in the genre. In terms of the warfare mode, they copied Battlefield 2042, and in terms of operations, they basically pulled different parts from different extraction shooters. Now, what they did here isn't illegal, but I would say the extent that they went to really copy, not just be inspired by, but copy what Battlefield and DICE were doing with Battlefield 2042 was extensive. It was incredibly obvious, but that didn't really bother anybody too much, right? Because Battlefield 2042 wasn't that great of a game, and hell, now we've got this game coming along that's going to fill the void between now and the next Battlefield game releasing. But I think we can all agree it's nevertheless a bit of a shady thing to do, but you know, it's a Chinese company, what do you expect? Now, things started off fantastically. They were talking with the community. They even opened up, for example, a private Discord channel with myself. I know they did this with Enders as well, and probably a number of other creators where we could give them direct feedback. And it sounded like they were really listening. And for me, that was a breath of fresh air because in my experience in the past, I have been treated notoriously badly by EA. My experience of EA and their community support, if you even want to call it that, has been very, very bad indeed. And so to have Delta Force come along and actually want to talk to me was a massive breath of fresh air. I thought, wow, look at this company. They're actually listening to their community. However, unfortunately, it seems that they're more interested in simply telling us what we want to hear than acting upon it. So just to name a few examples where they've really been caught out by the community blatantly lying about the game. First off, they said they were going to have regular content updates and drops. They haven't really stood to that. You know, the amount of content in the last season was honestly pretty laughable. It didn't really draw me back into the game. I hopped on excitedly hoping that there was going to be something there worth playing, and after a couple of rounds, I honestly just uninstalled the game, guys, because I just lost all will to play it. It's a shame because I do think it's a decent game, even though it's a blatant rip-off of Battlefield, but content is kind of king. And if you don't have any of that, then it's not really worth playing. So they haven't really lived up to that promise. Secondly, skill-based matchmaking is heavily applied in this game. Now, they have come out on several occasions and the game director has literally said that there are only two skill tiers. There is one for beginners, and once you move out of that bracket of the skill-based matchmaking, then you're just mixed in with everybody else. And I think we can all agree that is just not our experiences. I have to sweat my butt off just to get a half-decent round recorded to edit into my YouTube videos. If I compare this to playing Battlefield 2042, which in that game it's a relatively easy experience for me to perform well because there isn't this skill-based matchmaking in effect. And then, of course, there are several massive imbalances in the game. Luna's recon arrow, the arrow that spots everybody on the map for your entire team. I don't think there is a single person existing on the planet who likes that arrow and would not like to see it nerfed into oblivion, if not just removed altogether. But have they done anything about that and listened to the community? No, nothing at all. In fact, quite the contrary, they've given it several buffs. Now, this is the tip of the iceberg, okay, guys? This is nothing really too bad. Okay, game development company doesn't listen to their community. What else is new? But what I'm trying to do here is paint a bit of a picture as to the lengths this company will go to protect their image, that everything looks hunky-dory and everything is nice and the game is worth playing. but behind the scenes, they're essentially just doing whatever they want. So a few months after the release of this game, I learned through a video of the Cadwoman, and I'm actually going to be showing you a few screenshots from her video, that Delta Force were buying fake botted reviews, astroturfed reviews, over on Steam in order to boost their ratings. And we can't necessarily prove this 100%, but again, if you apply some common sense here, it is blatantly obvious to anyone that these are botted reviews, and lo and behold, after this video came out, these botted reviews mysteriously seemed to disappear. I couldn't find them anymore, or they just got buried in the review system. So we already know that they are not below behavior which manipulates statistics in an unethical way to show something that isn't really there. Now, this is, for me, really like the smoking gun at the moment. Just come and take a look at these Steam numbers. Now, for most of you, you probably don't spend large amounts of time checking the Steam charts, checking the player numbers for individual games, but I do. And I can tell you that this is very, very strange indeed. If we go back all the way to the release of the game in December 2024, you can see that they maxed out, they peaked at about 120,000 players. Now, the way it normally works with a game is that as word of mouth spreads, it will sort of increase its player number after release to a certain peak, and then after that, players will naturally start to drop off, right? People get bored of the game, and then as new seasonal content releases, you'll get a new spike in players. It usually doesn't get back to the original all-time peak, but it will spike up for a little while as people reinstall the game to check out the content, and then eventually they will uninstall it again as they get bored and move on to other titles. That is just natural. That's nothing wrong with that. Games are going to depreciate in player numbers as time goes on. However, Delta Force starts off here strong with 120,000 players peaked, and all throughout the year, they have pretty much kept around the same 100,000 players, day in, day out, no matter the content, no matter what. And recently, we have seen a massive spike in player numbers. Now, I can tell you, as somebody who has been covering this game and watching it with one eye for the past few months, hype around the game is completely dead. I don't know anybody who's playing the game. All of my viewers have stopped playing the game, and whenever I make videos on it, you can tell that there is a massive decline in views, that the trend and the general interest for the game is on a decline. If you log into this game, I will often matchmake into a half-empty server, and so the numbers that I'm looking at here on Steam, they simply do not add up to my life experiences around this game. There is just definitely something off here and something strange and fishy going on. Now, you could say maybe a lot of these players are over in China and they're not watching my YouTube content or the other content creators that I know because we make content in English. Or maybe they're just all playing Operations. However, I've compared these charts and the peak time of gaming that would be in China to other games like Battlefield 2042, and that general peak that we see in the waveform here each day seems to be at exactly the same time. So you can see at 2 PM my time, that is when the peak is. And if we go and take a look at another game like Battlefield 2042, you can see that at 2 PM we get the same peak in player numbers, and then it dips down before rising up again the next day. So this is not like a China-only zone thing. This is very typical for pretty much every game on Steam. This just happens to be the time when the most amount of players around the world are online. Now, I also want you to keep these numbers in mind as we go and look at Delta Force's report on various violations. So this means people who are cheating in-game that they have now stopped. And the sheer number of these doesn't really add up to the amount of players that are on Steam. So these are just from the dates of the 28th of April until the 4th of May. So that is one single week. They say they have issued 2,358 10-year PC bans, 429 DMA bans, 1,262 devices have been blocked, 8,747 cheat attempts stopped, and 8,261 players forced offline. And then on mobile, there has been significantly less of those actually, so I guess there must be more people playing on PC than on mobile. But nevertheless, if you add up all these numbers, we're looking at something like 20,000 cheaters. Are you seriously telling me that there have been 20,000 people cheating in 1 week with a game of a player base of around 150,000 on the daily? That just does not add up. I know a lot of people think that everybody cheats in video games, but believe me, I have interviewed video cheat creators and asked the men that know these questions, how many people actually cheat in video games, and it's actually way less than you would think. Most people who are accused of cheating are simply good players, and it's generally speaking lesser skilled players trying to cope. So I think the Steam numbers are artificially being inflated. I don't know how they're doing it, but I'm sure that since we know that they've been botting reviews on Steam, it's definitely not below them to also artificially inflate the player numbers. And I also think that these numbers here of how many cheaters have been banned are total twaddle. Now, next up, I'm going to give you guys a bit of information into what being a content creator is like for Delta Force. You've probably seen some recent videos where they were reported for basically paying content creators. Depending on how many views you got, you could win prizes. And I always found this to be a bit of a grey area. I did participate in these programs. So the way it worked is you make a video on Delta Force and you put a couple of hashtags in the description like Delta Force content creator, and then you can simply submit that video to a program, and depending on how many views you get in a certain time period, you may or may not win some money. And I have definitely made a few thousands of dollars, I'm just going to put it right out there, from the Delta Force program by doing this. Now, did I create those videos because I wanted to make money? No, I simply happened to be making Delta Force videos at the time, and I was like, wait a minute, I can submit these videos to a program and I might get some extra money on top of the ad revenue. Well, that's like a win-win. Why would I not do that if I'm going to be making these videos regardless? Now, the ethical problem with this approach as a content creator and as a company for Delta Force is that, generally speaking, when you make a sponsored video, you sign a contract, and in that contract it says that you have to divulge to your audience, this is a sponsored video, and the company will stipulate that you have to say certain things, you have to cover certain topics, etc., because they're paying you to make that video. The way that Delta Force have kind of gotten away from this and really been very vague and wishy-washy with their instructions is that they didn't actually say that you had to do any of that. They didn't stipulate that you had to cover certain topics. You could basically make videos on whatever you wanted and then just submit them to this program. But I did think about this and was like, wait a minute, this is sort of a grey area where nobody's actually divulging, and like, I'm freely going to admit that I was doing this myself, and maybe that was wrong in hindsight, but nobody's divulging that I may make some ad revenue from this. So they kind of exploited, in my eyes, a bit of a grey area, and they're still doing this, by the way. This is not hidden information. They also post these competitions on their official Twitter feed. Now, luckily for me, I'm in a position where I don't do content creation full-time. I have a full-time job, and so I'm just able to make content on whatever I want to make it on. But I can certainly see if you are a struggling creator trying to do this full-time, it's probably very enticing to want to make videos for Delta Force rather than other games if you know you can submit them to this program and potentially get some extra cash. And more than anything, this just sort of opened my eyes as to how much money Delta Force and I suppose the publisher Tencent are really throwing at this game in order to try and push it on people. Now, in recent times, I have stopped making Delta Force content because it's just kind of fallen off. I'm not interested in it, you guys aren't interested in it, and naturally, things have started to die down a bit. However, I was recently sent an email from Delta Force inviting me to a new content creator program, and this is where they literally pay you a monthly wage to make videos on their games, again, without really having to stipulate that you're part of this program. So what they offered me was $1,500 each month to make 4 videos and 6 YouTube shorts. And basically, because I just don't really want to play Delta Force, I'm not going to force myself to play a game, even though that is a very nice amount of money. And to be honest with you, if I would take that on a monthly basis, that may even make the difference between me being able to go full-time with YouTube and quit my job. But I don't like playing games that I don't want to play. I don't like pretending to be enjoying a game that I'm not. So I said, no thanks, I'm good. But this just kind of goes to show how much money they're really trying to throw at creators, almost like they're desperate for people to make videos about the game because it's clearly just not doing very well. On top of that, I have been approached for multiple other programs. They've asked me if I want to put a link in my video description that directs you guys to buy in-game currency, so you get a bit of a discount and I get a bit of a kickback from that. Obviously, I don't really like the whole microtransaction selling of skins to begin with, so again, you know, I just said no thank you. I've been asked to make sponsored videos for third-party websites that sell Delta Force coins. Basically, they are really trying to dial in on content creators to give you tons of cash in order to promote their games. And once I've pretty much turned all of this stuff down, there will be a lot of creators out there who ethically or morally just don't really care and they just want all of the money that they can make. Or again, I definitely feel for creators who are trying to do this full time and they need every little bit of income that they can get. And I'm not going to judge them either for accepting this, but I just want you guys to be aware of how much money they are really throwing at marketing for this game. And in my opinion, it is just all being faked to try and present this facade that the game is doing well, that it's popular, that this is the game people want to play, and you should jump on and have a go as well. Now, all of that said, I'm not saying that Delta Force is the worst game ever, or that even you shouldn't go on and play it. I mean, it's free to play. If you want to go and try it on PC, try it on mobile, absolutely go for it. And for what it's worth, I enjoyed my time playing it. The only reason I stopped playing it is because I just got bored. I got bored with the lack of content, and I have to say a lot of these shady practices that I'm seeing from the developers just rub me the wrong way. It doesn't make me feel confident in making videos about their games. It just feels wrong somehow. I just feel like, I don't know, like a little bit dirty. And I know there's going to be a bunch of you guys in the comments that say, "Told you so, Ghost." And that's fair enough, you know. I mean, I think we all saw this game coming out. You can't blame content creators for wanting to make content on this game. It is literally like the closest game that you will find to my niche of Battlefield players as possible. So of course, when this game came out, everybody jumped on to have a go. Everybody jumped on, started making content about it. But like, they have just fumbled it so badly, and it is just so apparent to me that the way they're approaching this is just completely unethical, in my opinion. Again, I think it's like a Chinese thing, stuff that seems to be widely culturally accepted over in China raises eyebrows in the Western world and in Europe, you know. So, like, let me know down below. Do you think there's anything wrong with this? Is it just me? I really just wanted to be, like, open and transparent with you guys to let you know what's going on. I don't really like to, like, hide behind things and, you know, be fake and, like, present one side of myself to my viewers. You guys know what I'm like, right? I just am myself, so I'm just going to give it to you straight up. So that's pretty much the situation at the moment. Delta Force has really fallen off a cliff. It's kind of dying, and it seems like they are desperately trying to claw people back, trying to claw content creators back with money, and yeah, unfortunately for me, I just don't really think it's going to work. And it's honestly just kind of sad. In this video, more than any other, if you're going to leave me a comment, leave it on this one. Let me know what you think about this. If you think I'm full of shit, by the way, that's fine. Come out and say that. I can take it. I'm a big boy. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.